You guys, so Barcelona have qualified for the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League, while Liverpool have surprisingly crashed out. And we need to talk about it. But if you haven't seen my face and you don't know who I am, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am just Max, and on this channel I talk about football from La Liga to the Prem and of course the UEFA Champions League. And on today's episode of my show, we will be talking about the second leg of the UEFA Champions League round of 16s. If you haven't watched my video from last week where I delve into all of the matches, yes, you heard right, I talked about all the matches. Please go back and watch that video because a lot of this, what happened this week, will make more sense. But let's dive into this. Now, last week, one of the major things that happened was people were very mad at UEFA for staggering the games between Barcelona and Benfica, Liverpool and PSG, and of course Bayern Munich and Bayern Leverkusen around the same times. It meant that people could not watch all the games, which were actually very good games that people wanted to watch. So what UEFA actually did was, to their credit, listen to the people, and this time they gave Barcelona the early kickoff, which allowed people to watch Barcelona and be able to watch other games. So I watched the Barcelona games, and I'm wearing a Barcelona t-shirt because if you've watched me long enough, you know I love this club. And let's talk about the game. Last week, Barcelona came through a narrow victory over Benfica in Portugal. They played 10 men down after Pau Kubasi was, given a red card and he had to go home. He was given a red card and he was sent off because of a nasty challenge or a last-ditch challenge. On every other given day, he would have made that challenge and got it right. But that last week, it was just an ill-timed challenge and it didn't work out. We played for over 70 minutes with 10 men and ended up getting the win. I think that was a record, by the way, but keep me honest in the comment section. If you followed my coverage of La Liga over the weekend, you would know that Barcelona did not play over the weekend due to unfortunate tragedy. The Barcelona first team doctor unfortunately passed away before the kickoff, so the game between Osasuna and Barcelona had to be rescheduled due to that tragedy. So the atmosphere was already feeling that coming into this game. We started off with a 1-minute silence in honor of the doctor. This is just a game, like I said. We never want to see this kind of things happen. But, unfortunately, it's what it is, and may his gentle soul rest in peace. But because Barcelona did not play over the weekend, it meant that Barcelona players came into this match very fresh and ready to go. And immediately you could tell that they had intensity. They were willing to come out at Benfica. And mind you, prior to kickoff, we already knew that Benfica could not afford to sit back and hope to counter Barcelona on the press. The reason being that they had already lost to Barcelona at home, so they needed to come out and play some football. So if you want to qualify, you just had to come out. And coming out meant that Lamine Yamal and Rafinha had a lot of space to play. And one of the best teams in counter-attack this season has been Barcelona. Their counter press is deadly, and this is something that we would see in this game. Within the first 10 minutes, Barcelona were playing lighter football. They kept Benfica pinned, and that's not to say that Benfica did not have opportunities of their own to come out and press Barcelona. No, they did. It was a very good give and take in that opening 10 minutes, but a moment of magic from the star boy Lamine Yamal when he turned on the style, shake off the defense and really split them open, gave Rafinha a very good pass where the man himself, Mr. Ballon d'Or, will be able to net in a side footer to the right hand corner of the goalkeeper. Within 12 minutes, Barcelona was flying. And I said to myself, you see what you guys did? Your mistake was you wore whites to the Montjuic. Because if you follow Barcelona this season, you know that any team that wears whites to the Montjuic, you go collect. So I thought this was our moment to, get going, get flying, get rocking, because guess what? This is what we do. But a moment of, within the next 2 minutes, a moment of mistake, I would say, had Benfica right back in the game. They came at Barcelona because, again, they're 2-0 down at this point. They need to press, and the press they did. They came out, they won a corner kick, and in that moment, Araujo unfortunately missed his man in Otamendi, and Otamendi was afforded a free header 2 minutes after Barcelona were able to go 1-0 top, look at 6 months they show Benfica had pegged them back. Like, I was like, is this one going to be one of those games? Because if you remember, Barcelona and Benfica had played out that insane 4-4 game in the group stage of the UEFA Champions League. So honestly, I was not looking forward to a game like that, and I'm so glad it did not come to that. Because again, Barcelona just kept their head. It was almost as if they were like, oh, okay, we see you, we acknowledge you, you're doing very well, but that's where your run ends. Because they turned on the style, they were wonderful. Lamine Yamal just decided to be him. Listen to me when I say this, Barcelona hype around Lamine Yamal is not overrated. He's 17-year-old, and the things he constantly do to experienced defenders, people who have really earned their bread and butter, like the things he do to them week in, week out. And it's not just like, oh, he has a good game here, he has it. No, he does this steadily in La Liga and in the UCL. He is not, the hype is not overrated at all. This guy is special. This guy is amazing. He's just a wonderful, wonderful technician. The way he plays, the way he dribbles, the way he's able to lose his defenders, everything about him. And what more is his maturity. Like, if someone tells you that Lamine Yamal is 17 years old, the way he plays, it does not compare. Like, so how do you mean he's 17 years old? And so, like, if you think about it from a Barcelona fan perspective, you're going to be so excited because Lamine Yamal is 17 years old and he's already doing this. If he's kept and preserved properly, Lamine Yamal could easily have another 20 years playing for Barcelona. And this is what you get to enjoy week in and week out. Because let me tell you, the second goal by Lamine Yamal for Barcelona in this game versus Benfica, I think it should be framed and put in the Louvre. That goal was beautiful. That goal was just out of nowhere. It was top draw. There was nothing. There was no assist. The assist was to himself. Barcelona had like a corner, a free kick that, didn't go well. It was going to go out for a throw-in, but he refused to let go of the ball. He then takes the ball, chases the ball down, brings it back, loses the defender. The defender is on the ground. Let me tell you, he slapped that defender on the ground and then puts it on his favorite left foot, and from out of the box, I want to say 30 foot out, like he was out of the box, he whipped a shot in, and I was like, and I'm sure his teammates were like, it was just that kind of goal. It was an out of nowhere kind of goal. It was a moment of magic kind of goal. And sometimes in a game as magnificent, or a game with such huge magnitudes, those are the kinds of goal that you need. An out of nowhere kind of goal. And Lamine Yamal duly delivered. These men at Barcelona were up and running and they were cruising. But to their credit, Benfica kept on pressing and pressing. And one of the people I want to give credit for at this point is my guy, Pedri. Now, if you don't watch Pedri, or if you watched my video last week, you would remember I talked about Pedri. Pedri is not the kind of player that he's going to score a ton of goals. But without Pedri in the game for Barcelona, the game doesn't feel the same. Pedri is Iniesta reincarnated. And he's such a La Masia coded player to never ever go to La Masia, because he just looks at home in Barcelona. The way he's able to control that midfield, the press of Benfica just could not get through him. And this is where I want to take a moment to talk a little bit about Pedri's defensive style of play, because for all he does in marshalling the midfield, in putting together wonderful passes, people seems to forget that Pedri's actually putting in a shift in defense. Like, he runs for days. Last game against Benfica in the first leg, he had the highest distance covered, and in this game for Barcelona, he was up there tracking back to the defense as much as he needed to cover, to make sure that Benfica's attack never materialized. Yes, the third goal did come from a counter press when Benfica was pressing Barcelona. This is another person I want to give good credit. Alejandro Balde takes the ball from the edge of Barcelona's 18-yard box, and let me tell you, Every time Alejandro Balde was on the ball for Barcelona today, I felt good. I felt like something was about to happen. I felt wonderful because Alejandro Balde advanced the ball with so much purpose. And in this instance, he took the ball and drove all the way to the 18-yard, like end-to-end stuff. He took from the 18-yard box of Barcelona and drove all the way to the 18-yard box of Benfica and slotted an inch perfect pass for Rafinha, who was like, "Thank you, sir. Thank you so much." And he slots a similar goal to his first, and Barcelona within the first half were already 3-1 up and the tie was done. I want to leave you with a stats. Barcelona have played Benfica 3 times this season. I heard this is the first time that Benfica have lost 3 times to the same opponent in the same campaign. And when I heard that, I was like, well, this is always the first time for everything. But more so than that is that every single time that Barcelona have faced Benfica this season, Rafinha has scored against them. Rafinha currently has 11 goals in the Champions League. 5 of them have come against Benfica alone. And with that, Barcelona advanced to where? To the quarterfinals. Now let's talk about Liverpool. The game versus Liverpool and PSG was highly anticipated because if you watched that game last week, Liverpool had no business winning that game because they were beaten, battered and bruised by PSG from every angle. The only difference between PSG and Liverpool last week was Alisson. Alisson Becker stood big and tall for Liverpool, that for every attack that PSG came up against him, he was repelling it. He was giving Kung Fu Shaolin soccer in that goal, like anything they did. Like he was just ending his shift. He was reminding people why he is one of the best players in the game, one of the best goalkeepers. And I will be one of the first people to be honest and said, when that game was ended, I said, if PSG could play one of their best games and still not be able to win, do I think that they could go to Anfield and win? I did not think so. I absolutely did not think so at all. And so you can imagine my surprise now that PSG have come away from Anfield as the winners of this game, having knocked out the incoming Premier League champions from the competition on the penalties. What happened in this game? PSG started this game with much intent, and so did Liverpool. To be fair with Liverpool, they played incredibly better than what they did in Paris last week. Sometimes I was watching this game and thinking, after the final whistle, I would say rather, I thought to myself, maybe you don't need your best game to win, because this was not necessarily PSG's best game. They did put in a shift themselves. There were moments and moments of brilliance throughout the game, but ultimately, compared to the kind of game they played last week, their performance this week compared to last week was not the same. In comparison, Liverpool played a much better game. They were much more deadly in attack. They had opportunities. Now, when they go back to watch the film, there are moments that they will rue not taking their chances, and that goes to Mo Salah. There were so many moments that Liverpool could have easily gone, 2-1 up or 1-1 in this game. They did not take their chances at all, and I'm sure that having events turn out the way that they have now, they will go back and say, we should have done better, but they did not do that. But I want to give credit to PSG because they knew that it was going to be difficult to come to the Anfield and play their best game, and they still did that. Listen, don't let anybody fool you. Liverpool could not intimidate the Anfield crowd. Yes, they turned up, but there was a moment in this game where the away fans for PSG sounded louder than the Anfield crowd. Now you can imagine how crazy it is that the away fans in Anfield were louder in their cheers than the entire Anfield crowd. That is how well the Paris support turned on, and I need to give them credit. Now, the goal for them in the first half came through Ousmane Dembélé. Again, it was a defensive mistake by Konate. I have no idea what he was thinking about. Alisson Becker had that ball covered, but he, inserted his foot, just clearing it away from Alisson and leaving the ball gaping in front of an open net for who to slot it in. You guessed it. If you're going to give me a gift and say, hey, would you like it? I am always going to take it. Ousmane Dembélé was on hand to bring PSG back into the game. And honestly, after that goal was struck, almost, would I say, within another 5 minutes, Bradley Barcola had an opportunity to make it 2-0. And I felt like that should have really honestly killed the game, because he timed his run to perfection. I think it's Kvaratskhelia that, made a pass to him. It was beautiful. It was delicious. And all he needed to do was place the ball or chip the goalkeeper a little bit. Granted, Alisson is a giant of a goalkeeper, so chipping him is not an easy feat, let us be honest. But Alisson was able to cover and save Liverpool on that occasion. But much for this game, Liverpool were attacking PSG. And like his counterpart last week, wow, Donnarumma had to step up and show out for PSG, and he did. He kept them in this game for much of the game. He did what needed to be done. He had some saves, he had moments of brilliance, and even when they went into extra time, he had some crucial saves that he had to make where he had to be big as a goalkeeper, and he did that. He today put on a goalkeeping masterclass. Alisson put on a goalkeeping masterclass last week. Donnarumma put on a goalkeeping masterclass. And I suspect, now this is my opinion, because I suspect that he wanted to redeem himself. Now, remembering last week's game versus Liverpool at Paris, he only faced one shot, and that one shot was the goal. So a goalkeeper of his stature would have been thinking, listen, I am better than this. I don't follow the Paris, media or whatnot, but I'm sure he came under some criticism. And this was a very good redeeming game for him. He did really well. And when we came down to extra times, because, there was nothing separating both teams, for me, I thought that Paris Saint-Germain looked more fresh in the extra time. Liverpool looked like they were just ready to take it to penalties. But Paris Saint-Germain looks like they wanted to win the game in extra time. Of course, Alisson kept on keeping Liverpool in the game. And we did end up going to extra time. And Donnarumma is who he thinks he is when it comes to saving penalties. Because there were 4 penalties taken in total. He saved 3 out of 4. And I'm like, there you go. Now, one of the jokes that came to me as I was watching the game, or as the final whistle blew, when it was clear that Liverpool had crashed out of the Champions League, is like how Premier League fans always talk about, like, the Ligue 1 is a famous league, but look at that now. Look at that. I am actually quite curious as to what this means for Mo Salah's campaign for the Ballon d'Or. Now, I've heard people always talk about that in addition to your local league, you do need to win the UCL, which is the glamorous trophy for the season. So you do need to win the UCL to be considered a Ballon d'Or candidate. Now, unfortunately, Liverpool will not be doing that because they have crashed out of the competition. So does this mean that Mo Salah's Ballon d'Or campaign has now come to an end? Let me know what you think in the comments. Now we're going to talk about Leverkusen versus Bayern Munich. And remember in my coverage of this match last week, in the first leg, Bayern Munich won Bayern Leverkusen 3-0 at home. And I said, listen, it's done, it's dusted. Welcome to the quarterfinals, Bayern Munich. And I was correct, because Bayern Munich ended up going to win this game 2-0 in Bayern Leverkusen's home, thanks to goals from Harry Kane and Alphonso Davies in the second half. There's just something about Bayern Munich and fellow Bundesliga teams. They just can't beat Bayern Munich. I don't know why. I cannot tell you. When it comes to the brightest and biggest of stage, when a Bundesliga team comes up against Bayern Munich, I wholeheartedly expect Bayern Munich to win. And the performance, yes, Bayern Leverkusen did have a good ball possession, but if ball possession without delivery is nothing, the statistics is the goals that count. And Bayern Munich had that in spades, and they just ended up taking the win. So Bayern Munich are also through to the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League. So yeah, you guys did that. Now let's talk about Inter Milan versus Feyenoord. Inter Milan versus Feyenoord. Now Inter Milan are the lone Italian team in the competition, and honestly, they're doing CRA very proud. I said Inter Milan are through to the quarterfinals last week after the first leg, and I was correct. Inter Milan beat Feyenoord 2-0 in Feyenoord's home last week. So I thought, I don't see Feyenoord coming back to beat Inter Milan in their home at all. And honestly, Inter Milan started this game with so much intent, so much firepower. There was a very good goal by Marcus Thuram in the 8 minutes, and I thought, like, it's over, because they're now 3-0 up. Like, do I expect Feyenoord to come back from that? Like I said to Feyenoord last week, don't feel bad. You guys did well. You guys made it to the round of 16 of the UEFA Champions League. That's big. Like, a lot of clubs joined this competition. Many of them crashed out at the group stage or in the knockout round, but you were able to get to the round of 16. Crashing out against Inter Milan is not a shame at all whatsoever. They did get a penalty, which I thought was a good penalty in my opinion. I don't know why commentators sometimes will be making, like, trying to stir up some shit, because when the penalty happened, I did see, the guy pushed him, and then even on review from VAR, we did see that he did clip his heel. So Feyenoord did have a slimmer of hope when they got that penalty, and they were awarded penalty, and they dispatched the penalty. Very good penalty, very well taken penalty, I should say. Ultimately, Inter Milan came up the winner when they were able to get a penalty of their own, duly despised by Çalhanoğlu, and that sealed the fate, and they're in to the next round of the UEFA Champions League. So all in all, today, the first day of the final games of the round of 16, has been insane. There's been shockers from, well, I should say shocker, because the main shocker has been Liverpool just exiting the Champions League. And that is to show you, this is simply the drama of the UEFA Champions League. Liverpool won first place in the group stage, and now the tournament is over. But let me know who you think will end up winning this thing, because it's now over, and I will be back in day 2 to talk more about the games. It's day 2 of my coverage of the UEFA Champions League, and there has just been a big scandal. Real Madrid have just knocked out Atletico Madrid from the UEFA Champions League. I've just finished watching that game. I'm a little bit heated, so let's just go ahead and talk about it, because I'm steaming. I'm upset. Now, here's why I'm upset. Atletico Madrid have crashed out of this year's Champions League, and I think that they shouldn't have. They really shouldn't have. Last week, when Real Madrid came out 2-1 winners at the Santiago Bernabeu, remember, if you watched my video last week, if you didn't, please go ahead and go watch that video, because like, a lot of things played out the way I said they would. I said that going down 2-1 to Real Madrid at the Santiago Bernabeu is not the worst thing that could happen to Atletico Madrid, especially when they were going to the Wanda Metropolitano. And I said that unlike Manchester City, I expect a fight from Atletico Madrid, and I expect them to come out and show Real Madrid who is boss at the Wanda. And I was absolutely correct, because within the first 1 minute, within 30 seconds, Atletico Madrid was able to level the game against Real Madrid. They played a magnificent game. They were compact in defense. They were amazing in attack. Yes, they did lack finishing in some instances. They were a bit wasteful here and there. But listen to me when I tell you this. It is remarkable when you are able to keep Real Madrid, the Real Madrid, to one shot on target in 90 minutes. 90 minutes. Atletico Madrid's players they had peak concentration. They did not let anything deter them. The atmosphere was bouncing. You knew it was one of those history-making nights. Atletico Madrid absolutely showed up, and they showed out. And we ended up going into extra time. And yes, I thought that Real Madrid did play much better in the extra time. Yes, I thought match deserved the penalty kick because, you know, both team, it was end-to-end stuff in the extra time within the extra 30 minutes. And I felt like, to be fair, Atletico Madrid could have won it on several occasions in that extra time. But the major talking point, and which is why you're here, is the Atletico Madrid penalty kick by Julián Álvarez that was cancelled by VAR. And the reason I'm heated is because when I saw it in the first moment, I could not see how Julián Álvarez has double tapped the ball before scoring. Listen, he was already slipping. To be able to manage his core muscle, to be able to control that ball and still score, I thought that was one of the best penalty kicks I've ever saw. Only for me to then see that they are chopping off the goal because they thought that he had double tapped the ball. Now, the thing that shocked me the most is if you thought that this was a bad penalty, what happened to a retake? Nothing of such was allowed. It was immediately chopped off like it was a miss. And I've never seen this in my whole entire life. If Atletico Madrid had lost this game because they played a bad game, I would have been happy with it. I was prepared, fully prepared to come on here and say, you know what, guys, congratulations, Real Madrid. You guys were the better teams. You guys are Mr. Champions League and that. But the way Atletico Madrid have now been kicked out of the UEFA Champions League on a penalty gate, since the match ended, it's been a few minutes. I've watched it. I keep watching it. There's been magnified, you know, I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. And I think it's a shame. The game was going good. Everything was going well. I don't see it. I don't see it. Dortmund came away 2-1 winners at Lille. And what a win for the Yellow Submarine. I mean, let me tell you, when that game started, when Dortmund immediately went down 1-0 within the first 5 minutes of the game, from a goal that I'm sure the goalkeeper would not want to watch back at all, because the goalkeeper was totally nutmeg. He's like, no, like, you should never concede this kind of goal. I did think that this was going to be a romantic moment for Lille. They've never appeared in the UEFA Champions League quarterfinals, so if they had managed to secure it, it would have been a good thing for them, for the history of their club. But unfortunately, it was not to be today. 2 goals from Emre Can, Maximilian Bayer were enough to secure the win for Dortmund in the second half. And honestly, when I watched that game, I thought that they were the better side in the second half. In the first half, Lille had their moments, and again, when you go back to watch film, you will see that you should have totally done better on some instances, but they didn't take full advantage of the opportunities that were afforded to them. And that the first goal by Emre Can for Dortmund is, you know, it was a penalty, which totally well deserved. If you're going to make those kind of tackles in the box, then you just have to, you're running the risk of conceding one. And so, yeah, it was a good game from Dortmund, in my opinion. Dortmund are now through to the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League, where they will be playing Barcelona. We've already seen these two teams come together in this Champions League. Barcelona just coming out narrow winners in that game. And I want to say they came out, it was a 3-2 win. Keep me honest, I don't exactly remember the score. I do know that Ferran Torres scored twice when Barcelona visited Germany earlier in the season. If you remember what the scores were, let me know in the comment section. But all in all, very good game from Dortmund. They came at Lille in that second half. They had 17 shots, 8 on target, and they controlled 51% possession of the ball. But the most important thing is that they were able to convert those goals. And unfortunately, Lille were not able to emulate PSG, who knocked out Liverpool yesterday. Arsenal beat PSV Eindhoven 7-1. Or was it 6-1? They beat them ridiculously last week. And I said Arsenal are the first team to qualify for the next stage of the UEFA Champions League. Today had come out in a draw for both teams. So on aggregate, Arsenal beat PSV 9-3. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And one thing's for certain, two things for sure. I think that Arsenal are prioritizing the UEFA Champions League. The Premier League have just maybe slightly gone away from them. So maybe the Champions League is where it's at if they are going to secure any kind of trophy this season. With Liverpool crashing out from the tournament yesterday, Arsenal, in my opinion, are now the highest ranked team from the English Premier League to continue on in the tournament. So they have a little bit more pressure. So I said last week, I don't see PSV overcoming a 6-1 deficit. It just wasn't meant to be. PSV will have to go back to the drawing board and start afresh. The surprise of this season's UEFA Champions League is Aston Villa, who are now comfortably through to last 8. Yes, I did say it last week as well when they beat Club Brugge 3-1 at home in Club Brugge's home. I said it last week that they were all but qualified. They had a magnificent performance then, and they had a magnificent performance today as well. Last week, Asensio was on the score sheet for Aston Villa. He was on the score sheet for Aston Villa again in this. In fact, he bagged himself a brace. And he's just quietly reminding people who he is. I am very glad for Asensio to see him coming back in this way. I am very glad for him. Aston Villa are through to the final 8. I don't know if this is the first time in their history. Let me know if, this is the first time in their club history in the comment section. But ultimately, this is a fairy tale run for Aston Villa. I think they're maybe one of the clubs that are relatively new in this area that we never expected to see them in this level at the start of the season. But here they are, and that has been it from the UEFA Champions League. I am still very much upset with this Real Madrid game. I cannot lie, I'm not happy with it. I thought that the game was too big in magnitude for us to end up with such controversy. But another day, another thing to talk about. Let me know what you thought about those games in the comment. Which one was your favorite? And I will see you on the next one. But before then, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment and let me know what you think. Bye, guys.